Welcome everybody to 6 top tips to raise your energy. Oh. My name is Deborah, and I'm going to take you through this presentation where you will find 6 really simple ways that you can feel lighter in yourself, feel like you're getting more out of life. So first of all, what do I mean by energy? Well, if we think of energy, we think of like power stations, you know, up here, got photosynthesis on the sun, making energy, fueling buildings, or we think of like running, you know, having the energy for exercise and things, or we think of maybe green energy, windmills. What I'm talking about here is the sort of our electromagnetic energy, if you like, because we all have, we all emit energy, which is a form of electromagnetic energy, and that's the energy that I'm talking about here. So just wanted to say, you know, in terms of like raising your energy, what does that mean? So the easiest way to think about this is to think about water. And if you think about water molecules, when they're in ice, they're packed very tightly together like a crystal because their energy is quite slow and they don't move very much. But if you put energy into the water, if you heat it up, then first of all, they start moving around over each other as they turn into water. And then if you put a bit more heat in, the molecules actually escape from each other. They become free from each other, and we have steam. And at this point, the molecules are moving really fast. They have a lot more energy than what they did when they were water or ice. So I wonder, you know, maybe you find yourself like in your head a lot, you know, how when you just, your thoughts just go round and round and round and round all the time. It feels like there's not much let up. Or, you know, how like you get some people who are just like really sensitive to what other people think about them. And it's like they're always like hyper vigilant. Or perhaps just never seem to have enough time to do everything you want to do, or even what you have to do. Or maybe you're just feeling like generally tired a lot of the time, or just not having much fun or pleasure or even peace. So these are what I call low energy states. This is when our electromagnetic energy is quite low, is quite slow, a bit sluggish. But imagine always being like in a place where you're always excited because, you know, life is just full of miracles. You're full of wonder. Or, you know, you're just always happy because life's, you know, really beautiful. And you're peaceful because you're content with what you have. And also you feel enthusiastic because you're on purpose. Or you feel loving, always feel loving to everybody because you feel good about yourself. And these are what I call high energy states. So this is when, if you measured our electromagnetic energy, it would be quite high, it would be quite fast. And to go from that place of, you know, feeling quite low energy to feeling that strength and that, yeah, that good and high energy, fast energy, it usually involves the heart in some way, because the heart is like the center of our electromagnetic field, if you like. And why is it important to raise your energy? Because you just feel, well, one, you are so much healthier. We're so much healthier when we feel in a high energy place, and we're a lot happier, even if life might actually be quite simple, or might even be quite difficult. If we can maintain a high energy, then we just feel better. We just feel good. And then also, if we're feeling healthier and happier, then we'll actually transmit that out to the rest of the world. So in a way, it all starts, if you like, in the core of our being, in our heart, if you like. Now, there's lots of ways to raise your energy. You probably know, about exercising, about eating a good diet, meditating, prayer. But what I want to talk about here is just making a choice. Because making a choice is very, very fast. We can do that in an instant. So why is it important to choose to raise your energy? Well, there's a scale of emotional states, the energy scale of human emotions, where they've actually measured the electromagnetic radiation that's coming off people in certain states. So this slide shows you all the negative emotions. And as it goes down the list, they become increasingly slower energy. So it starts with just pessimism, being a bit pessimistic, frustrated, irritated, doubt, worry, blame, discouragement, anxiety, anger or revenge, hatred, rage, jealousy. And then these are very common ones: guilt, or being unworthy, or being fearful. And then probably the most debilitating in terms of energy is shame and powerlessness and despair. And, we all know these states, but it's a matter of how much time we spend in them and how quickly we can get out. So above those, on the positive side of the scale, we have the positive emotions. And these, as you go up the list, the energy becomes increasingly higher. So we start with contentment, hopefulness, optimism, enthusiasm, passion and happiness, freedom, delight, gratitude, love and joy. And if we're lucky, peace or even bliss. Now, the reason I put freedom, delight, gratitude, love and joy, passion and happiness in capital letters is because I believe that these are the states that you can achieve easily using my six top tips. So if we put these together, and when they actually measure our electromagnetic energy, they find that at this very high level of bliss and peace, it's at 700 hertz. Now, I'm not a physicist, but it's a big number, isn't it? It's fast. Hertz is like vibrations per second or something. And at the very, very lowest energy level, it's only 20 hertz. That's a huge difference in terms of our electromagnetic energy that we are putting out to the world, or even, living in our own life. Now, the thing is that how fast can we actually go from a very slow energy, a very low energy, to a high energy? And, maybe we're just going from feeling frustrated to feeling content. That's still a jump. Now, I don't know if any of you have come across Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks. They talk about the law of attraction, the law of manifestation, which you may have come across as well. But they say that we have 17 seconds to make that shift before it starts to impact the world around us, because we're emitting energy into the world all the time. What sits between the low energy states on the left and the high energy states on the right is boredom. And, you know, when you think about boredom, you think about teenagers, don't you? I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. And you're like, well, find something to do, you know, find something that you like to do. And in that place of boredom, we always have a choice. You know, we can either go, well, I'm bored and I'm fed up and there's nothing to do and there's nobody around, nobody likes me and blah, 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 blah. Or we can choose to, actually, it's a beautiful day. I'll just be content with the day. So we've always got that choice in that point. And in fact, we have a choice at any point. At any point, we're over here on the left, we have a choice whether we want to stay there or to move to a higher, faster energy. So all we have to do is on the left, we just have to think, I am content. I am content. And then our brain hears that and goes, oh, okay, they're feeling good. And it sends out electrical signals to our bodies so that we do feel good. And those electrical signals go via hormones. So you've probably all heard of hormones. They're little tiny protein molecules, and they are released by different glands in our bodies. And they are released by a nervous stimulation, like a thought from the brain. And they affect everything in the body. They're like little chemical catalysts. They speed up reactions. And if we look on the left, we've got two types of hormones. We've got stress hormones and what I call happy hormones. And on the left, these are the stress hormones. And I've shown them at the bottom below board, cortisol and adrenaline. Now, adrenaline is really useful if we're in a flight or fight situation. That's when we need it, because it will do its absolute best for us to survive in that situation. But it's a fast thing. It's the saber-toothed tiger coming at us. Cortisol is more the hormone that will keep us alive when we're, for example, like a refugee and we've not eaten for a long time, and maybe we're freezing cold and living in the damp in a ditch, and we're very, very frightened. And it's like there doesn't seem to be any way out, and what our body does, the cortisol, it shuts a lot of the body down in order to just keep the life-saving mechanisms going. But if we live under continual stress, like at work or at something like that, we're just constantly stressed, then we'll also be living constantly under cortisol. And that is what can then cause long-term chronic conditions, very poor health, joint problems, you know, autoimmune type problems, because the body's not focused on non-life-saving systems. It just, you know, just got to keep the heart going, basically. Now, happy hormones, you'll have heard of these: serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins. And these are the ones when we feel good, yeah, and we just like feel happy and we just want to smile and we feel loved and we're having a great time and we feel connected to people and we're doing what we love. We just feel really good. And they're very healing and they're very creative and they're anti-aging. And they are released whenever we are above the borderline. Cortisol and adrenaline are released below the borderline. So as you can see, we really want to be above the borderline a lot of the time, so that we're actually releasing those happy hormones and not the stress hormones. And why is it important to raise our energy now? Well, if you're any sort of, empath, or, you're concerned about what's going on in the world, or maybe, you do some sort of service in your work, then, you're aware of how many people are suffering in the world, and the lack of peace that there is in the world. And the more that we can live in that higher energy place of where we're vibrating happy hormones, we're vibrating good high electromagnetic radiation out into the world, then we are contributing to a massive global movement that is working at this level to create peace. And you'll feel so much better in your own life, you'll have more work-life harmony, and you just feel more peaceful in yourself. And so really what this boils down to is having a self-awareness of our thoughts and emotions. And when we are more aware of, like, oh, that wasn't a creative thought, that wasn't a good thought, that was a very judgmental thought, for example, about myself or something like that, or like feeling a bit like feel a bit blah, like this, then to have that self-awareness and go, that thought's not helping me at all, and that emotion is just bringing up cortisol and adrenaline. So then when we have that self-awareness, then we have that choice to change. And that's what the 6 top tips are going to give you, very fast ways that you can make those changes. And when you make those changes, you just feel more confident, more creative, you have better decision-making skills, and of course it decreases stress. And if you're into the law of attraction, then we attract what we emit. So if we're emitting a higher energy out into the world, then we're going to bring back that higher energy. We're going to be more surrounded by that higher energy in the world. So what I've created is something I call the Deborah's hierarchy of practice, the 6 P's to raise your energy. I don't know if you might have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you've got this triangle and it's got your things at the bottom like security and food and water and clothing and that sort of thing. And then it goes up to the more self-actualizing point at the top. So it's sort of based on something like that. But before I go into that, just wanted to tell you a little story. It's something that happened to me. It was exactly 18 months ago. And I used to be a live-in carer. I used to teach environmental arts in the youth service and absolutely loved it. But when the government pulled the money out of the youth service, I lost that work. And so I went into live-in care because I thought, well, I've only got a few more years, so I have to retire, let's do that. And I could pick and choose when I worked. So I was seeing this woman who we'd become very close. I've known her for about 2 years. She was absolutely delightful. Her memory span was about 5 minutes, but she loved going out. We just went out all the time. It was like going on holiday when I went to her. We used to go out in the car all the time. But the last time I went, it was obvious that she was dying. She'd not been well for a long time, and I hadn't seen her for a few weeks. And I spent 3 weeks sitting by her bedside, holding her hand, because she was so frightened of what was happening to her. And she was a naturally very anxious person, and she had some medication for her anxiety, which she didn't need very often. I'd only ever given it to her twice, maybe in 2 years I'd known her. And I suddenly was there one day, she was so anxious. I said, would you like some of your medication? oh, yes, she said, yeah. So I gave her some, and like, so much better. So I think I'd given her 3 over a day or something. And so I phoned the doctor and said, she was wanting her anti-anxiety med. Oh, that's fine. She can have 4 a day, 4 hours apart. That's fine. I'll send you some new ones. Well, of course, it made her very sleepy. And of course, she was very dry in the mouth. And I wanted to moisten her mouth. So I asked the nurse when she came in, have you got any of those wipes I can just moisten her mouth with? And she took one look at the woman and she put a little mirror in her eyes and she went, you poisoned her. What have you done? And I explained to her, I had maybe already told her that I'd been giving her anti-anxiety meds. Anyway, the next day there was this big kerfuffle and the doctor was there and all these other carers were there when I wasn't there, and came back and she had no anti-anxiety meds anymore. So this poor woman had to suffer for the next 2 weeks of me sat by her side, holding her hand for like 16 hours a day, telling her that everything was going to be fine. And we had a great time, actually. We went through this portal, this garden thing she had outside. And I just took her, I said, we're going to heaven. You're going to lift horses. We're going to go ride the horses on the beach. But at the end of the 3 weeks, my boss came in and he said, there's been a complaint made about you for attempting to poison your customer. That was, that was such a shock, as you can imagine. He said, you're going to have to leave now. And I have to follow this complaint up. I mean, he did say to me, but don't worry, I know you've done everything by the letter because you've told me everything you've done. I'm pretty certain you're okay, but I have to follow it up. There's been a complaint made about you. So I went off and I stayed that night by the sea. I was in my van. And I have never felt so bad in all my life. I felt so bad that people would think that about me. It was like this blackness just descended on me, and shame, like just so ashamed. And I was shocked at how sudden it came on and how black it was, and I didn't know what to do. So after a day or so, I reached out to some friends on Facebook who I'd been sort of chatting with. I didn't really know them, but, I used to do chats about astrology and things. I'm an astrologer, so I post every day in Facebook about the astrology. And I reached out to them and I said, I'm not doing very well. And I had all these messages come back that were like, what you did for that woman was absolutely incredible. You supported her through her dying, and it was absolutely amazing, absolutely incredible. And I was sat there and I thought, I can either go with I'm this evil person and live with the shame and the blackness and darkness, believing I'm just a bad person, or I can believe these other people who say that actually what I did was okay and it was really good and that they love me and that they think I'm really special, even if I don't feel it. And it was like there was nothing in between. There was no boredom in between. I had to pick. Which way was I going to go? And I knew I didn't want to live the rest of my life like this, feeling the shame and the blackness and the horribleness about myself. And although I knew that I couldn't in that moment actually feel this, I knew that I had to choose this one. And that somehow I had to find my way out of that black pit by believing this. And so I did. I took every little bit of belief that I could find that people had in me, or just, being by the sea and just, watching the sunset and just, doing my best to know that I am as beautiful as nature. And I forgot to move my slides on. Yeah, so there was me in my black bit. And then I made a choice. that I had to look for a lighter energy, if you like. I had to look for a lighter energy and not stay in that dark. I had to make that choice. And once I made the choice, it was fast. It was really, really fast. The turnaround and being able to see what had happened in perspective and to go, no, actually, I'm okay. And to able to get out of that horrible black place. That was that side, wasn't it? Sorry. And, you know, come back. And I believe that we can all do this very, very quickly once we become aware of what it is that we need to do. And first thing we need to do is to start by taking care of our hormones. And the first thing to look at is the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland sits, but put a line through there and a line through there, and it sits in the cross point in the middle underneath the hypothalamus. And you may have heard the expression, your third eye. It's very, very popular in Eastern spiritual traditions. The third eye, it's said to be here, and it's thought to be our ability to sense energy, if you like, to actually sense, you know, because we can feel when somebody comes towards us, whether they've got, you know, nice high energy or whether it's really low energy, we can feel that. And we're often picking it up through our third eyes, like an energy receptor. But it's governed by the pineal gland, that ability. And so we need to keep our pineal gland really clear, really special. Now, it's only about the size of a grain of rice. It's tiny. And the only hormone that it's known to emit, that it's ever talked about, is melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. Now, they only ever talk about melatonin in terms of, you know, that when it goes dark, you get melatonin, and then you want to go to sleep. But there's very little talk about the fact that melatonin is a light receptor, you know, and light is a very high energy medium, if you like. You know, we always feel better when the sun shines, don't we? It's automatically raises our energy when the sun shines. So our energy is automatically raised in light. That's why people who suffer with seasonally affective disorder have these light boxes, you know, because they need the light. They're not getting enough light in order to raise their hormones. So our pineal gland is our light receptor, and it needs to be in really good condition. But the problem is the way that we live is calcifying our pineal glands. I've got a friend who does autopsies, and he says he never sees a pineal gland anymore that's not calcified. And there's lots of factors that contribute to a calcified pineal gland, but one of the main ones that seems to be contributing and is the easiest to eliminate is fluoride. Fluoride toothpaste, fluoride in your water. If you eliminate that, then it will your pineal gland will rapidly decalcify, and you'll be much more able to absorb light energy and to raise your energy in itself. So then we go on to positive. So this is very much, you know, about those thoughts and our emotions, about that self-awareness. Are we having a positive thought, or are we having a negative thought? Are we feeling positive, or are we feeling negative? And we, especially in the Western world, we seem to believe that we are our thoughts or our feelings or our body. We self-identify with those, but we're not. They're aspects of us. They're like tools. We're the higher voice that says, Right, Deborah, I think you'd be best with a salad for lunch today. That might be the best thing for you to have. And that's like this other voice that's looking after me, that's looking after my mental and emotional and physical level. And so we can stand back and we can look at our thought and go, that wasn't a very positive thought now, was it, Deborah? You know, that's not going to help anything. And I can go, no, okay, how can I turn that round and make it into at least an intention or a wish for something positive? And equally, you know, when we're feeling like, I'm feeling really like that, okay, so you're feeling like that, so you're feeling like that because that just happened and that's just triggered you. You don't have to let it trigger you. You could decide to just let it pass on by. And so we are in control of our thoughts and feelings, and we can choose to have positive ones. And this lowers our stress hormones massively, cortisol and adrenaline, because every time we're triggered, we're like raising adrenaline, you know, we're getting into that anxiety state every time. And it's not really, really not good for our health. And remember, you've got 17 seconds to catch it, 17 seconds to go, oh, I'm being very negative. Okay, I'm going to come back and be positive before all the damage starts to kick in. And then the final one I call Pearly, because you know what? The easiest way to get into your happy hormones is to smile. You see, when we smile, even if we don't feel like it, just lifting the corners of our mouth says to our brain, oh, she must be happy, she's smiling. Okay, let's release the happy hormones. And, you know, try it, just smile. You just feel better. You just can't help yourself but feel better. I did an exercise 3 years ago, just before we went into lockdown, where I decided I was going to smile from when I woke up in the morning to when I went to sleep at night for a whole month. Changed my life. Changed my life. It's incredible what a smile can do. And as we all know, you know, you smile at somebody else, even somebody you don't know, and they just go, oh, that's so nice. And suddenly they look so much more beautiful. And you realize you look a lot more beautiful when you're smiling. We look a lot younger and more appealing and more attractive when we're smiling. So 3 practices to raise your hormone, to bring your hormones up to happy hormones. Light up your pineal gland, always look for the positive, and always smile. So then we're going into the second layer, and I've called this layer values. And the first one is about being present. So you've all probably heard that expression, you know, be present, just come into the now. We're not very good at it as humans. We're either thinking about the past or we're thinking about the future. It's very rare that we're actually right in this moment right now. You know, it's like if you just stop for a minute and just listen to what's happening around you. Just drop into the present. And in the present moment, there is no angst, there is no worry. There's only an infinite space, an infinite time, an infinite realm that we're free to be who we want to be. That's why the present is called a gift. And that's why Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now, that being in that present moment. And it's all about seizing the day, you know, because it's only in that present moment that we can actually seize, we can actually hear anything, we can be inspired, we can receive anything, and we can seize it and go, yes, that's what I need to know, that's what I need to hear. And I heard this beautiful quote literally about an hour before I came on this call. Finding our bliss through simplicity and it was my favorite astrologer I was listening to, Pam Gregory. And this is very much the era, if you like, that we're going through as a humans collective, as a species. We're being asked to come back to finding our happiness, our joy through simplicity. And that is how we're going to solve a lot of the problems that are in the world, because so much of the problems arise from this sense of needing more in order to be happy, in order to be fulfilled. So we can come back into a more simpler way of life, then we're more likely to find our bliss there. So the second value is passion. What are you passionate about? So I've been fascinated by this for a while now. You know, people say, oh, follow your heart, follow your bliss, follow your dreams. And I'm aware that very few people do that. A lot of them, because they're not even quite sure what it is, or they never even get an opportunity to do it anymore. But when we truly just do what we love to do, whoa, that sends us into another realm. Really important for us to know our core values, what it is that is the most important thing for us in our lives. And they're going to be different. It's interesting how we'll each have very different core values, but they'll usually take us to the same place. And that's because we're all different. But once we know our core values and we align every decision with our core value, then we'll always love what we're doing. It will always be in alignment with who we are. And we can find our core values very simply. It's one of the things that I do with people. So, and when we live our core values, and when we live by our values, and we follow our passion, and we are present, then we feel much more authentic. We feel more authentically ourselves. And then immediately we feel more peaceful in ourselves. We feel more joyful in ourselves. And we're starting to really raise those happy hormones now to, a much higher level. And I just wanted to share with you my friend Leah, who now Leah really struggles with she needs to control. It's like she has to control a situation. She gets really uptight and really upset if she can't control the situation. And then she just ends up with chaos and overwhelm going on all around her. So I taught her how to come back into her heart, how to recognize when her energy was becoming so low and so, adrenaline and cortisol sort of driven, and that she had to stop and do some of these tips that I'm giving you in order to bring herself back to a place of peace, to bring herself back to an equilibrium, to at least a place of contentment, so that when she was in these situations with other people that were just driving her to the point where she wanted to murder them, she could hold that. And she could, and she was able then to have a proper conversation with people, because it enabled them to bring their energy down as well. And so she really, learned to understand the power of her own energy and how she could control her energy in order to be more self-empowered. So then finally, we've got the 6th P, which is about power. And I call this verification. Because remember in my story, when I said that I reached out to my friends because I felt so bad, and they came back to me and they said, we believe in you. We would want you by our side if we were dying. What you did was beautiful. That I had to believe that. I had to believe that they were true that they were right, that they were speaking the truth I needed to hear, and not what, the people who had complained about me, not their version of their truth, that I had to make that choice. And that, for me, if you just got one person who believes in you, and that you can go, this person believes in me and I trust this person, okay, I'm going to borrow that belief, then that is a very powerful self-verification. And one of the small things is, when somebody says to you, oh, you look great today. Oh, you look wonderful. And you go, oh, this old thing. Oh, that was back. And it's like, what we've just been given a gift. When somebody offers us a compliment, that's a gift. And we can go, oh, thank you. And take it on board and receive it. Because it's a verification of that we're okay, that we're not this bad person that a lot of the time we think we are. Actually, we're okay, and we can come back into that happy hormone state. So always receive compliments graciously and really hear them, really feel them. So those are the 6 P's. Oh, that's my verification, because I had one person following me on Facebook, and I thought, well, I can't let her down. I'll have to keep doing this. And now I have the hundreds of people who follow me. And because I believed in that one person, that she saw something of value in what I was sharing, I kept going. And now I'm able to offer value and be of service to lots and lots of people through my astrology, and I help people to release their creative genius. Because for me, when we're able to raise our energy and it ripples out into the world, and we see the world in a higher energy place, that's very creative. And to me, that is our creative genius, that we can actually create a higher energy world, a world that exists at a higher energy, by each of us individually making that choice to come out of the low energy state and come up into the high energy state, even if it's only contentment. So here's again the 6 practices to raise your energy. You might want to take a screenshot of this. Decalcify your pineal gland. Avoid negativity. And one to be aware of here is when you got groups of people together and they're all complaining about something, like, oh God, just need it so bad. Yeah, I know. So, oh, tell me about it. Yeah, that. And you're, and we all feel like we feel connected because we're all having a same experience. But actually, we're having a downward spiraling experience because we're getting into a negative thing. We're not going, oh, I had such a great day the other day. Did you? Oh, tell me all about it. Oh, I'd love to hear about it. Wow, that sounds amazing. That sounds beautiful. No, we're usually complaining about something. So it's really important that we avoid those sorts of conversations as well. Saying you need to go to the toilet is a good one. To avoid negativity. Smile. Always smile. Always smile, because it shifts energy so fast. It's the quickest thing that we can do. Be present. If you feel it starting to escalate, just take a deep breath. Come back into the present, because it's only in the present moment that you're going to know what is the next best thing to do. Can't figure it out when you're on a like this. You have to be in the present, you have to be still, to be quiet, in order to hear what is the next best thing to do in the situation that you find yourself in, whatever it is. and do what you love to do, something where you just lose yourself in time because you love doing it so much. That's what you were here for. That's what you were brought. That's what I believe that we were brought here for, was to each do what we absolutely love to do. And some of those things we've left way behind in childhood, way behind. As an astrologer, it's one of the things that I notice a lot in my clients. You know, I'll see that they got an incredible skill, usually something like acting or singing or something like that. And I go, wow, did you used to love to sing? Oh, yeah, as a kid. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I was really quite good, actually. Do you do that now? Oh, maybe a bit in the shower. And it's like, oh, you know, you're missing out on all that joy that it used to give you. And there's usually something in there for everybody, something that we've left way behind that used to give us so much joy, and that is, you know, could easily resurrect it, or something that is along that vein. You know, maybe we're not going to, you know, run a mile anymore, but we could still be out in the countryside, whatever it was that gave you the pleasure when you did it. And borrow belief until you have your own. You know, seek it out, or whenever compliment comes your way. Oh, that was nice. Thank you. Thank you. And I think that is me come to the end. Yes. So thank you so much for watching. And you are so welcome to share any of these practices in your work. You know, they're so simple and they're so powerful, and, you know, people get it really quickly. And, you know, let's ripple it out. Let's share it out into the world.